Facebook Live. I'm going to talk about this week's blog, which you'll find if you want to read the original. It's over at www.DBpsychologyservices.com under the blog section. If you need any help, as always, I'm here if you need me. So this week I'm just going to give you some 2 tips. I'm going to concentrate on 2 tips which I think are very important when it comes to building self-confidence. Let's get to it. So basically, with self-confidence, we're not born with this. This isn't something we're born with, but it is something we can build. Or if you've had your self-confidence knocked, which happens to all of us at some point, in fact, it can happen multiple times throughout our lives, with a bit of investing in ourselves, we can rebuild it. And even a few minutes a day of reinvesting in yourself can really make the difference of, building up your self-confidence again. So, how would you go about that? I feel, and I've always said this, that, basic self-care skills should be our number 1 priority. And why I say that, and it's how it's related to self-confidence, is, if you have a proper basic self-care plan in place, you're looking after yourself, you're getting your basic needs met. I'm talking about your basic needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're on the bottom 2 rungs is what I'm talking about. If you're meeting these yourself, you're not only going to have a good solid foundation in the house called you, because I equate it to, this is a house and this is our foundation. This is going to be, you're going to be setting boundaries. And so it's working 2 ways, the basic self-care. It's helping you set a boundary with yourself, because you're responsible for your boundaries. So you're setting a boundary with yourself, but you're also going to give yourself a really good foundation on which, you can also then be building up your self-confidence as well. So how can we go? What would be included in that list? What do I include in that list, which might be a little bit different than most people's list? Sleep. Your sleep. If your sleep is off kilter, anyway out of sync at all, you are not going to feel on par. And if that's the case, then you're definitely not going to have any self-confidence there. So sleep, if I was going to pick one thing out of, a basic self-care list to prioritize, my number 1 would be sleep. I would pick that one. And I've done a video on that, 11 tips where you can help re-establish a good sleep pattern. I've done a video on that, so you can head over there. I would pick one thing on those 11 tips, and I would start to implement them slowly over the course of the next month or so and get my sleep going. So sleep would be a number 1 priority, because if your sleep is off, it impacts your brain, it impacts your body. You just can't think straight when you haven't had enough sleep. And therefore, you're going to start to question yourself if you're not able to verbalize information that you would normally have done. So it's going to take a big knock to your self-confidence. So sleep would be a priority as far as I'm concerned in terms of getting that self-confidence back up. The usual suspects: eating regular meals, healthy meals, drinking plenty of water, and exercising. All simple to change. All important. Again, very important. Caffeine and sugar, again, they're going to have a knock-on effect on your mental health. They're going to make stress and your anxiety feel 10 times worse. So if you can cut back on them, you're actually going to help ease your stress and anxiety. And again, they're going to have an effect on your sleep as well. Again, if, if your stress and anxiety has been made feel worse because of high consumptions of caffeine and sugar, you've entered into a negative cycle, one that you can take control of, one that you can change quite simply by starting to cut back. And therefore then that will affect, reduce your stress, reduce your anxiety, your brain fog, because you're getting better sleep, is going to start to lift. You're going to feel it, and you're going to feel better in yourself. You're going to boost your self-confidence that way. And it is, again, little tweaks. It's just a little tweak you can do. And exercise is going to boost your serotonin levels. So even that 10-minute walk at lunchtime, because we're in autumn here now, in Ireland. So, getting that's going to boost your mental health. But it's also, again, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to boost your self-confidence. Your clothes, another thing, dressing the best you can. And this is still on the first tip, your basic self-care. Dressing the best you can every day. It doesn't have to be the latest fashion. It doesn't have to be what somebody else would wear. In fact, when somebody else is dictating or telling you what you should wear, that has a huge impact on how you feel about yourself and your self-confidence. It should never be anything, that somebody else says, you have to wear this, or you should be wearing that. It should always be about something you feel comfortable in, first and foremost, but something that you feel good in. That will impact how you feel, how you will, present yourself to the world, and how you feel internally. It's amazing what can happen when somebody, changes the clothes to what they feel comfortable in, how it can impact their self-confidence. Taking time for your own interests and hobbies. This is a vital step in putting a boundary in place. And as I said, when we put a boundary in place, we're going to start feeling better about ourselves. But we're also, if we're taking time for an interest and hobby, we're also usually meeting like-minded people. And that's where we get a boost as well from our self-confidence. We're meeting people, friends, that can support us, people that think the way we do. We're in a community that we feel accepted in. And this just comes from simple interests and hobbies. Again, it's going to boost your self-confidence. But also think, and I've said this to you before, about making sure that you have that, support team around you. Positive supporters. So no negative vampires allowed. I've talked about them before, and deleting negative people from your life. And there is a video on that too if you want to check it out. Because they will only, they suck the life out of you. That's why I call them negative vampires. They suck your self-confidence along with it. So it's important that you don't allow them to do that. Another thing on the basic list that I would put in there is, ask for help. Please reach out and ask for help. That can come in many ways and shapes and forms. Again, that can come from your positive supporters. It could, if you need, mean you're reaching out to professionals as you need them. Your GP, main doctor, a consultant of some kind. If you need to go to a recovery group, if you need to go to therapy. Again, you're meeting people that are going to support you, and therefore your confidence is going to feel better, and it's going to lift you up when you do that. So please reach out for help. The other thing you can do, and it can be easy to change, is bad habits. Again, I have a whole video on this series that I did on this. I've in fact got 6 lists of good habits that you can try. These self-soothe us. So we swap out the bad habits, for good habits that can self-soothe us. Because when we're using, bad habits, and we can hit the usual subjects, the usual suspects, the smoking, and the drinking and things like that, reaching for the extra glass of wine or whatever. That's a negative cycle, and when we hit a negative cycle, it's going to have an impact on us. It's going to make us, in fact, it might give you short-term relief, and that's an instant relief. When I mean short-term, it's going to be an instant relief, but longer-term, and that's, an hour later or a little while later, you're going to feel worse about yourself. So, ditching bad habits does, in fact, help increase our self-confidence. Number 2, tip 2, stress reduction. And I've just picked 2. There's lots of stress tips up on my blog, so again you can go and have a look at the blog. But stress reduction is vital as well. So basic self-care is the first one. stress reduction, I would be hitting the stress reduction techniques as well as a second thing to do. There are many internal as well as external. We can cause our own stress. So internal is the way we think. Internal stresses and external stressors can have a huge impact on our self-confidence. And again, it's a negative cycle. So we have to figure out how we are responding to stress, because somebody else's stress may not be the same as our own. So you need to try and figure out how you're responding to stressful events in order to then begin to change that. So some questions, and they're in the blog. I'll just run through them very quickly. Some questions to get you started might be, which way do I normally react to stressful situations? So look at your behaviour, your responses when stressed. What triggers have you noticed? What's triggering you? Make a note of them, get a journal, cheap copybook or something belonging to one of the children, and just start writing down examples of who's stressing me, where am I getting stressed, is there a particular recurring situation? Maybe it's that Friday meeting, it's really stressful for you, or a particular person you have to work with that's stressful for you. So look at them, the regular ones, and see, can you figure those ones out. Again, if you want a free course on stress, recognizing your triggers, then come on over and join the group. There'll be a link in the description to do that. Are there particular people, as I said, are there particular people or situations that are causing you stress? How is your body reacting to stress? Sometimes we forget that. Or sometimes that's where we notice our stress first. We notice the tension in the shoulders, or maybe we notice, the migraine or the upset stomach every time you think of going to that Friday meeting, or at the end of the week you finished work and suddenly you get a migraine, and it's happening all the time. That's tends to be stress related, but do go to your doctor and get that checked out. So have you noticed particular symptoms? So I would look at some of the following there, like how am I thinking, what are my physiological signs? That's where do I feel my stress in my body, as I said, how am I feeling about it, and what feelings, emotions are coming up for me. So if you want to build your self-confidence, then we need to be able to manage the stress. We need to be able to answer those questions and identify and start recognizing that stress is impacting our mental and physical health, but it's also impacting your self-confidence. So now once you become aware, then you can start to change it up and look at ways to do that. So as I said before, the basic self-care, which I talked about at the start, is a starting point. It's a really good starting point for reducing your stress and getting things, prioritizing and investing in yourself in tiny ways. It doesn't have to be big changes, but you also need some form of relaxation. So I've done lots of those over in my group. 7-11 technique, the 3-minute breather is great to do on the go, very effective technique. Yoga classes, Tai Chi, mindfulness, if you wish, the progressive muscle relaxation, which I just did with my group. You can go and come into the group and learn how to do that. Abdominal breathing, again, I've done that with my group. Anything at all, though, that you find relaxing. Any form of, if you find running is your thing, walking to de-stress is your thing. Don't sit down and take the drink. Don't sit down and watch the TV and disassociate. You need to be getting up, get moving to release the, the adrenaline, cortisol, the excess stress hormones in your body, and get up and get moving as well as help relax yourself. Another effective technique, which I've done a detailed training on in my group, is to do a quick brain dump. When you keep everything locked up here, up in your head, you're entering into that negative cycle. You're trying to keep it all up there. You're getting, your stress is building around it. Maybe your anxiety is building around it. Maybe you're feeling stuck and you're overwhelmed and you just, no, I can't cope with this. Again, your self-confidence is going to be, going to be taking a knock here. But getting a piece of paper or keeping a notebook, even beside the bed, where you just before you go to sleep, just dump it all out. Everything you can think of. Start with the to-do list, shopping list, anything at all. Just start any words or phrases that come up. Just start listing it all out. Don't try and keep it up here. As I said, it's only going to bring you into that negative thinking cycle. You won't be able to relax. It'll help you sleep better when you do that. It can also, if you do it during the day and you're feeling a little bit stuck and you don't know where to start next, or you're feeling overwhelmed with a to-do list and you've been trying to keep it up here, just simply write it down. Write down that to-do list. And that'll help you see, where do I need to go next? What do I need to do next on my to-do list? Or is there anything I can ask for help with? Or can I delete it? Does it really need to be done? But when we see it on paper, it can really help us to delete or delegate, or just get the next thing we need done on our list done. The main point here is, though, that we need to realise that we don't need to carry it all around in our head, because that triggers the rumination cycle, the cognitive distortions that we all have, and that really, really destroys our self-confidence. So, get them out and get more focused on what you really want to do next, but don't try and hold on to it up in your head. The one thing I would say to you here about this is, you've got to start taking responsibility for building your own confidence. If you want self-confidence, you've got to take responsibility, because only you can make those changes. I can do a video on it, I can give you tips, I can give you lots of tips, but only you can really make those changes. I could support you if you're working with me. Again, asking for assistance is a great way to go. And asking for help from your supporters, your positive support team, is a good way to go. But again, they can only support you. You have to make and do those changes. Do the exercise, prioritize your sleep, do the brain dump, do all the things, the stress reduction techniques that I've talked about. And at times that can feel tough. But please remember that, it's a new learning curve. You're stepping out of an old way of doing things. Make the steps really, really small for yourself, because in that way you're going to build your confidence by making them tiny, and I mean tiny, one thing at a time. Then you can start to help boost your self-confidence, because you'll see the wins. You'll see that you can make those changes, and that's going to have a benefit to your self-confidence as well. The other thing you might want to try is find a mentor. As I said, most successful people do have mentors. Somebody you can confide in. Again, your team of supporters are there for you. If you have a good team of supporters there, they will help you with different aspects of your life, different areas of your life. Somebody that won't judge you. That's important. They won't judge you. They won't offer you advice unless you ask for it. And if you need a talking to, they'll say, hey, come on, cop on to yourself. You need to be taking responsibility here. But they'll be, a positive support for you. And that's what it's all about, having those positive people in your life. As I said, no negative vampires allowed. So, that's what we need. We need less negative vampires and more positive people in our lives that support us. And of course, it's reciprocal, because you will support them too. So I leave it there. There's more detail in the blog as usual. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Thank you all for watching as usual, and thank you all to those who watch in replay here and on YouTube. And I will talk to you all again next week. I'm going to be talking about children next week, and resilience. So I will leave it there, and I'll see you all then.